Hey, welcome everyone. This is a special meeting of the State Building Code Council Executive Committee for Friday, August 14th, 2026. Can we take roll, please?
Yes, Todd Bayreuther,
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Ben O'Mara,
Here.
Roger Haringa,
He's here, but he's having trouble hearing us. I think he's still working that one out.
okay, and Tom Handy.
Here.
We do have a quorum. That's everybody.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone from the public like to be recognized for the record? Go ahead. Start with Tim, please.
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Patrick, please.
Thank you. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, you should be able to unmute now.
All right, thank you. Jay Peters, Codes and Standards International. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, seeing no other hands. We're going to go into review and approve the agenda. We have two items today that we need to address. Can you hear a motion to approve? Go ahead. Roger, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you now too. So
Okay,
I
thank you.
am in full attendance and I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Nice transition. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jay. Any other discussion? Public comment? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Agenda is approved. We do have minutes posted, don't we? So item 3 is to approve the minutes from June 17th, 2026. We hear a motion to approve as presented.
So move. This is Jay. Second, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, any proposed edits? Any public comment? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, first item will be executive order. Dustin, do you want to kind of introduce it for us,
Yeah.
please? So
All right.
executive proclamation. Thank you.
Yeah. So recently we had an executive proclamation issued out that asks some input from the State Building Code Council. So it's believe, shoot, my page counter went away, but it's several pages long and it's 16 pages long. And on the last 2 pages is where it's relevant to what it's asking for SBCC to do. So just for the record, this is Emergency Proclamation 2603.1, and it was asking for the State Building Code Council to make recommendations on relief for fire rebuilding activities. So I have it highlighted here on page 15 and 16. We are kind of only in this one paragraph, but we're looking to review and provide a report by September 9th to the governor with recommendations identifying provisions of the building code that can be waived or suspended to help the building effort or rebuilding effort, I should say. And then after we get this initial report out, it's asking us to update every 60 days thereafter with no expiration on that. So anyway, I'll turn that over to the council now to discuss a little bit more. The purpose of this meeting here isn't necessarily to come up with the contents of that report, but to plan the events where we will come up with the content for that report. The initial idea here is to set the stage for bringing this to the next council meeting, which is August 28th. And if we can get the firmed up content for that report at that meeting. And then if we need some more, we stand ready to get out some other special council meetings. We have one more week after that meeting to further massage any content being recommended to the governor's office, and then we need to transmit on the 9th of September, and I'll pause there.
Okay, thank you. And I want to recognize Representative Schmidt to the meeting. Go ahead, Representative
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, are we looking at the building code for 2021 or 2024? Are we, because 2024 has not been adopted yet, so we're looking at 2021, is that correct?
So currently, the 2021 codes are what is in effect for anybody who's submitting permits for rebuilding within the city of Spokane or anywhere else where there's wildfire impacted. But we are looking at any and all of the codes in our suite right now. So we are currently working towards the 2024 code, and if it's appropriate to address those codes as well, we're here to discuss that with and make plans for that.
Okay, thank you. And I can give a little more background, but Ben, go ahead first, please.
Yeah, I guess, Dustin, one or two questions. First, the date on the proclamation is August 1st. So I know you said it was like sounded like effective August 8th, but just wanted to clarify that.
There was
Um,
two.
what is our target for issuing this report?
It's going to be September 9. This is a supplemental proclamation, so that initial date
Got it.
is not when this was handed down to SBCC.
Got it. This is the dot one. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second clarification that I was looking at in the highlighted contents, it's noting the rebuilding of housing and other structures. I'm curious as if we should interpret that to include repairs and a replacement of any systems within affected homes. So maybe the home itself is still standing, but there are systems within it that have been damaged by smoke or other effects.
I would say the full scope isn't fully identified, but that sounds like a reasonable addition to not just rebuilding from ground up, but anything that's been impacted by the wildfires should probably be included in our considerations.
Okay, I'll add a little more, but Roger, go ahead.
I was just going to add a question that I had, which in reading it, I think I have answered my question, is it's talking about housing in general. So I believe, and this is probably up for discussion, but the way I read it, it would be IRC for houses, as well as IBC for apartments that we would need to look at. So
Yeah, let's get to that. Thank you, Roger, for pointing that out. So to set this up again, today this is our first touch in a public meeting for the executive committee to propose a path here on how to address this. We have been doing some listening with some of the affected jurisdictions. My and understanding of this is statewide. There are multiple jurisdictions that have been affected by this. And so we have to keep that in mind. It's not just one or two jurisdictions. And I see a couple of guests. Jenny Nickerson from Spokane Valley is joined us today. Sorry, Jenny, we haven't reached out yet, but we intend to. And again, we're not proposing the solution here today, but there are multiple ideas already, particularly with a couple of the HJs on how to address this. So we're ready to. We already are kind of working on a couple ideas to bring forward. I think the helpful thing to talk about here will be how we enter into this. So this is from the governor. The governor, could follow up with another proclamation saying very specifically what the solution is or what we shall do. This is asking for a report that looks at multiple things to waive or suspend parts of the code, but also give other considerations. So I think it's a thoughtful way to phrase or to structure the ask. So Dustin, do you want to talk a little bit about we've been in emergency rulemaking before, and there are a couple ways to enter into that directly as the council. or through an external petition. So maybe we should re-educate ourselves a little bit about that just for the record.
Yeah, so for everybody who's here, our traditional method of getting into emergency rulemaking typically comes with a petition from the public. We have some timelines that we have to observe and some uh, extra process that we have to observe as well. So if we receive a petition, we get it introduced to the council. We're not allowed to act on that petition at the very first meeting where it's introduced. And then we come to the second council meeting, we make a finding of emergency, and then we make a vote on the content of the emergency rule and put it forward. One of the things with emergency rulemaking is that it is only valid for 120 days. And in order to refile an emergency rule to extend it beyond 120 days, we have to be in the process of permanent rulemaking. So what that means is if we would have to file essentially like a CR 101 and be in earnest moving towards a permanent rule that would, if there's something we can do that could be done permanently in response to this, we would need that action to be going to extend beyond 120 days for effectiveness. There could be some additional direction handed down that might lessen that requirement, but that's one of the challenges with emergency rulemaking is the duration.
Hey, Dustin, before you move on,
Yep.
I think we need to state, because we've been through this multiple times in the last couple of years, this is where we have to establish by a 2/3 vote of the council that emergency basis exists, right? So
Yes.
we would have to formally have that vote and then move into the merits of the petition. And before you move on, Dustin, I think Roger has a question.
Well, I have a question. I understand we've been in emergency rulemaking in the past and we have those requirements. However, this is a question. I don't know if Dirk is on or not, but is this different because the governor
Mhm.
has already declared a emergency?
So yes, this is a different scenario, and I was getting into kind of the process
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
So
Sorry to jump the gun.
no worries, it's all right. But you're hitting right on the nail right on the head that this is different than the emergency rulemaking we've done in the past. So when we're looking at how we do this, we are looking at both the Administrative Procedures Act and our RCW 19.27. The Administrative Procedures Act allows for governing bodies to do emergency rulemaking, but there's not much established on the timelines and when you can and cannot do that. What really governs that is our statute 19.27.032, which is the amendment timeline requirements in public access. So when we're looking at this section, we want to say this is the first restriction we're looking at. We have no substantive provision that we can do more than once in a 3-year code adoption cycle. So that's what kicks us into needing to do an emergency rule. We couldn't do a normal rulemaking with the other stuff going on right now. And then we get to 1C1. The council may adopt emergency amendments to the code at any time under the following conditions. And the amendment is necessary for the preservation of public health, safety, or general welfare. And then when we get into the sections that are below this is the process that we're used to, is the petition process. So Dirk is not on with us. He's double booked for some stuff, but we have been in contact with him. And the advice we're getting from him is that extra meetings are not required because we're not responding to a petition from the public. And also, we are not looking for a 2/3 vote to establish an emergency here. Dirk's perspective on this is that these sections that establish those requirements are really only there and applicable to when we are responding to a petition for emergency rulemaking. So it would be reasonable to think that an emergency basis already exists based on the proclamation that we have in front of us. And that what we're here to do today is to look at recommendations to respond to the proclamation, and also consider, do we need the governor to ask us to do something before we begin action? And so that's kind of the not necessarily the question. I believe that with the advice from Dirk, that we are empowered to begin an emergency process without a 2/3 vote and without any additional directive from the governor to do so, but we still need to respond to the report request from that proclamation as well.
And Dustin, I'll add, if we do that, we're going to be very complete in establishing, for the record, in a public meeting that our intent and why. So just to make sure that's clear, including public comment and so forth. Okay, that is not this meeting, but are there questions now, or do you want to add more, Dustin?
That's kind of what I had to tee it up here. I'm prepared to answer some questions about more process and what this might look like as we go through this. But I think right now the big need that I'm asking for is exactly when we're going to start making the positive headway towards filling out that report. And then if we are deciding to do something that might require some more meetings put on the schedule, that's kind of what I'm trying to get here is like what the meeting situation looks like and how I'm planning to draft any documents that might need to be drafted up.
Okay. We're going to open up for any public comment, but are there any questions or comments from the council first? Okay. I'm going to open it for anyone from the public. If you'd like to make a comment or raise a question, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll start with Patrick, please.
Patrick Hanks at the Building Industry Association of Washington. I've been talking with our local association out in Spokane about this issue, trying to get a feel for what's happening on the ground and what they're sort of seeing a need for. And they do see a need for some kind of relief when it comes to codes. It sounds like a lot of the homes that have burned down were built, in the 20th century. So it's a big jump up for code compliance to current codes. And that can present, some cost issues. There's also an insurance component and there's differences between residential and commercial or multifamily. So there's, understanding there's going to be a lot of technical discussion that needs to occur, but just want to, reiterate what builders and homeowners in Spokane are asking for some type of relief when it comes to code compliance, especially for, much older buildings, not, obviously going to want to make sure that there's good life safety requirements and, reasonable energy efficiency, cost-effective energy efficiency increases, but going up to full code can be very prohibitive in some instances, and we just don't want to make sure that there's any kind of unnecessary delays to the rebuilding. Yep. And I'm happy to work with council members and provide any information that we can give you as you work on drafting that report.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Go ahead, Representative Schmidt.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we also know already that we have several, the 719 homes. That's the last count that I've gotten from the county. Of those homes, there's a large percentage of those that are underinsured and certainly didn't have code improvement insurance. There are a few people in our area that did have code enhancement insurance, but very, very few, and most people are underinsured.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tim, I got you. Sorry, you should be able to unmute now.
Yeah, I was just going to mention maybe at some point in our deliberations, we have a presentation from an insurance company, just so they can let us know what they're covering, when, just people that are in the battle right now, and just get a good idea of exactly what they're going to cover and when.
Yeah, good suggestion, Tim. Thank you. Okay, as I said, a few of us are in Spokane, and we are, listening and trying to create open channels with the HJs, and we're gonna keep reaching out to do that and bring that information back to the council. And for the record, so Katie and I both were able to sit with the city of Spokane last Friday and kind of hear their ideas so we can bring it to these meetings. So I think the next step here on this is the proclamation is obviously directing us to write a report. I think what we're talking about here is that, and getting into meetings to start talking about what proposed rules we could actually propose, so we can move very, very quickly and be responsive, and also advise. There are some ideas of HJs that want to potentially submit petitions if that's the preferred pathway. But I think that's why we're having this open meeting here today, to talk about those options and then work with those HJs on what maybe the preferred collaborative route might be, which were highlighted here. Okay, so Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I had this in my mind before. We are all focused on Spokane, and I think that is obviously very important, but the proclamation is statewide.
Correct.
So I think that we all need to be considering there may be other locations, municipalities that this will also apply to. So while Spokane is obviously the largest, and we do need to be aware that it is not only going to be Spokane.
Correct.
Or I don't think it should be.
And even when we say Spokane, we already have 3 jurisdictions involved: the city, county, and city of Spokane Valley. So go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. I want to be responsive to this, especially with the situation in Spokane and elsewhere to wildfires, but I want to also be recognizing that we'll be appreciate we're being responsive, but we're also setting precedent in how we deal with disaster. And so I'd like to think about an approach that says, okay, here's what we're doing now, but keep in mind, this is not the last disaster this state will face. How would we handle this if this was a earthquake response somewhere else that had the same challenge of saying, how do you rebuild at the scale of thousands of homes? And so want to be mindful of that as we're thinking through our approach here. I know there's some ideas being circulated around in Spokane. As we look at that ideas, I also would like to be able to allow for other approaches as well, and wondering about opening things up for some kind of petition process to say, how would we go do this in addition to some of the things that the AHJs around Spokane County are putting on the table.
And Jay, just to agreed with that statement, but also to clarify, when you say petition, you mean a more general open window rather than the emergency petition. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And I do agree with that, and that we have started to hear some of those ideas. Okay, I won't say anymore. I'll first go to Representative Schmidt and then back to Patrick.
Yeah, and if Dustin, if you could follow up on this, but from my understanding, because I was in a couple of meetings with the governor when he was here in Spokane. So from my understanding, we are not looking at a code that affects the whole state. We are looking at code that affects the 5 or 6 counties that were actually in the original emergency declaration. I believe that's correct. So we're not looking at changing code statewide. We're looking at those particular jurisdictions, I believe. But maybe if we could clarify that, that would be helpful. Because there was 5 counties, it was like Spokane County, Stevens County, Okanagan. I can't remember the other counties, but there was 5 or 6 counties actually named in that original emergency declaration.
Todd, if I can respond,
Yep.
Representative Schmidt, my understanding is, in fact, the first thing on my list of what I think we need to do is define who this applies to.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, it is not my assumption that if we made a change to the code that it would be for the whole county. new projects as well as other projects. It is
Right.
only for those
For those
affected by.
affected
So
by.
we need to come up with language, and I don't know what that looks like, to define very clearly who this applies to and who it does not apply to. But it is, I agree, it is not just Spokane, it is a number of locations statewide.
Yeah, it's good to state that there's going to be a qualifier with anything we do and a qualifier within the HJ, so it's a good thing to state. So thank you for that. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, agreeing with what Roger and Representative Schmidt said, I think the governor has the ability to limit the scope of the waivers to specific regions. And then obviously if you do a code change, that would affect statewide, and so you need to probably structure that differently. But I think those are kind of two separate things. And looking at the what's the immediate need, what codes need to get waived right now for the governor's executive order, those can be restricted to a certain region. And then also I think he has pretty broad emergency powers, so he can restrict it to rebuilding, replacement of systems, not just new construction.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll say, City of Spokane is already mapped and put eyes on every parcel, and so it's already in their GIS system. So thank you for that. Okay, we got Tim again.
Yeah, I just was going to say, we're not the first to deal with this sort of situation. So maybe at some point, again, in our deliberations, in addition to the insurance companies, maybe we have someone from Southern California who dealt with the Palisades issue down there, give us a briefing on the good, the bad, and the ugly of what they've been dealing with over the past couple of years.
Yep. Thank you, Tim. Okay. All good comments. So the action today is as executive committee, do we want to schedule a first meeting, and what body, or are we preparing for our next full council meeting is the 28th, is that correct?
Correct.
So what do we need to do between now and that full council meeting to be most effective in that meeting, which will only be about 10 days or so before the report is due? Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I would suggest that. I don't know who is going to draft the language for this memo. Part of me thinks Dustin, although I wanted to recognize our Dustin and his staff is completely swamped with all of the 2024 code work that we are in the middle of. So potentially somebody else. I think identifying who that person is, and I would love to have a first draft for the council to look at in 10 days or whenever our next meeting is. Doesn't have to be all inclusive, but at least it starts to, the rest of the council members can be aware of the elements that we're looking at, who it applies to, what we're going to look at, process. So I'd like to get it started, Todd, before our meeting.
I think we all share that. I think the vehicle is the question here. We also do have an existing work session scheduled for the 2024 codes on Tuesday. We have a couple important agenda items on that already, but we could propose potentially to also begin to address this here or schedule another work session next week, perhaps on Thursday. If we think that's a good format to make progress towards the full council meeting, the 20th. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I would look at this in a couple of different ways, and when we have the next agenda item discussion for the 2024 codes, I think the overall recognition is that we're going to need to slide the schedule on those. Question is, and to what extent? And what I don't know right now is what is the most helpful way to make progress on this. there could be the need to repurpose the work sessions we already have scheduled, or it could be to cancel them because we need the space to work offline with staff on the response for the 28th. So looking for some input from Dustin on what would be helpful, because I think responding to this emergency in a responsive but thoughtful way is our top priority versus our original goals around the 2024 code and some work this month.
And Dustin, before you go, Jay, I agree. My thought on the work sessions is keep them scheduled so that we are consistently posting. There are other ways to obviously do that, but we know that that's the touch point, and then documents will be posted on progress for both the 2024 codes as we're already doing and for this topic. But open to any ideas. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, we, maybe I should have suggested that we flip the topics on our agenda. I have not been convinced that we have to change our schedule, although I admit I have not dialed into all of the relevant information. So at this point, I wouldn't want us to proceed under the assumption that we are delaying the 2024
Okay.
code.
Well, the other thing we can just simply do here is if we have exhausted what we need to talk about on this item, we can move the full discussion into an integrated schedule discussion on the next agenda item. Is that okay? Is there anything else that we'd like to say on this topic before we move on to schedule? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Let's do that then. The next agenda item is the schedule. So right. I mean, we put it review and adjust as if that decision is inevitable, but let's just open the discussion on this. Dustin, is there anything you want to introduce first, or do you want the council to start looking at the posted items?
So yeah, let's, instead of starting with the 2024 code adoption cycle schedule and kind of looking at where that lands, I would like to first just kind of share like where rule-making documents can land and where the hearings might land if we needed to. So we're looking at several different things here. One is response and making room for the response to the emergency proclamation. The second one is having enough time in our schedule to actually have for staff to be able to get the comments documents prepared and out, especially in the energy code. And then the third is going to be looking at where we're at with the work session development for stuff that's not within the energy code. So I think that we're really close on the not energy codes to being able to get to where we can have the documents ready for the final adoption meeting. But I don't think that is going to happen here by August 28th.
Dustin, can you pull one of the schedules up while you're talking?
Yeah,
please?
I thought I had it clicked open and it's not. Let me reattempt that. I was kind of just waiting for it to get open. Let's see here. But the document I'm planning on sharing is, here, I'll open it from the website.
And both are posted. Just
Yeah. And there we go. So looking at not the schedule issues highlighted, but the filing/hearing dates document. So this is the same stuff that you see on the background of my screens. What we have different here is the filing deadlines for the past have all been removed to reduce confusion. And I've got these color coded in here to represent when we file and when we can have a hearing after that.
can you please zoom in, Dustin?
Yeah, not a problem.
Sorry.
So as we look at the next filing deadline, so we have some stuff outlying on some of our CR 102s, but also if we were to make an emergency rule or not emergency rule, but if we were to do normal rulemaking, we can get something in by next Wednesday. We can have a hearing September 22nd. And you'll see that these are paired by color. The first date in a color is the filing deadline. The second date is going to be a hearing when we can have our first hearing. So as we're looking to where we have to be to maintain our implementation date for the 2024 codes, we have to have final adoption done by December. That's the cut and dry of it. We do have a little bit of wiggle room to go to the 15th on the commercial code, but traditionally council has finished everything up by December, or that's been the goal as a hard deadline because everything else rests on that December 1 timeline. And I'll pause. I see your hand, Roger.
Yeah, can you just, I think I understand what you're saying, but when you file the CR 103, so for instance, the two red numbers on August 19th, you would file the CR 103. You're making the assumption that there are significant changes, so we have to have a hearing after that.
Yeah,
You're allowing for that, right?
yes.
And that's why there's is it 30 days or whatever, the 20 days, whatever the number is.
And Roger, just to clarify, just because you said CR 103, what you're referring to would be a supplemental CR 102. Is that correct, Dustin?
Well, I think that he's got two questions.
Okay.
Is if we file the CR 103, which is the filing of the final rules, we've made final adoption. The second square doesn't really matter. If we can get a vote in by December 1, the filing of the CR 103 has been done after those deadlines in the past. And I don't have any indication from Dirk that filing the CR 103 after those dates is in contrary to the RCW for the filing.
In fact,
Dustin,
I was just going to say, I agree with that. And I believe that the RCW says that the council needs to take action. It doesn't say that it has to be filed by those dates. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So then rewinding into CR 102 process, if we file a supplemental CR 102, then we definitely need to have another hearing. And that's what I'm trying to show here is for hearing dates. So when we're talking about filing supplemental CR 102 for the energy code, based on some of the comments we've received, we would need to have data in hand to meet the red squares. We would need to have data in hand like today or yesterday and have that drafted in. We have to submit some stuff to the code revisor and get it out. It's likely that we can't get that data in. We wouldn't get response back from the code revisor in time to meet the 19th filing deadline. So if we had the data received by public comment, and I am getting indication from Krista that we have some of the blanks filled in that are missing in the CR 102, we just need some time to draft it and get the return items back from the code revisor. And we could do a supplemental CR 102, ideally September 2nd. And then that gives us time in October to have hearings and work sessions throughout October and November. The way I see it, if we file a supplemental CR 102 anytime after the 2nd, we really start encroaching in on our statutory deadline to have action taken by December 1 or December 15. And if we don't make that deadline, then we're once again looking at the requirement for the codes to sit through the legislative session, and we would have likely a 12-month delay or more on the codes as resulting if we don't get that. So it'd be my desire, if we're moving towards filing supplemental CR 102, to have it happen early in September or at latest on the 23rd in September, and then we can work through it. And I'll pause for Jay.
And okay, go ahead, Jay, and I have a comment.
Yeah, just thank you for that explanation. I think I'm tracking this, but I just want to confirm my assumption here with the color coding in the calendar. You are laying out different dates if we need to refile or to file an amended CR 102 as part of this code cycle. And the two dates in each color are the filing and the deadline for the hearing date?
Or
So-
the earliest hearing date.
The earliest hearing date, okay. So, looking at this, our windows for action are August 19th, September 2nd, October 7th, and October 21st.
Yeah, we have the September 23rd as well.
The yellow.
Got it. The yellow there. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
And that's when we need to get it filed by noon at the code revisor's office to meet those timelines. We could have the documents filed in between those days at any time, but we have to plan based on these dates.
And so I'm gonna summarize a couple of things here. So just restating, this has always been planned that if the council determines we need to file a supplemental CR 102 on a certain topic. Okay, so again, my understanding this is on certain topics. This is not refiling the whole CR 102. That's a different mechanism. And so these 20-day windows now, we've always balanced that with what our statutory requirements are to get to the finish line by December 1st, and also with the other, desirable things of when we, move language forward for publishing and all those related things. But this is a discussion about the statutory piece of this, and no determination has been made by the council yet. That's a formal action we'd have to take. So we also got to look at when we would take that kind of action. So right now you see the star on August 28th. That's obviously an opportunity before the orange and yellow filing dates. Is that clear? Did I say anything incorrect there?
I think that you hit it on the head. I would agree with everything you said.
Okay. So right now we're okay.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to restate. We're moving towards what we're going to do at the August 28th meeting, and which of those opportunities, preferably the September 2nd or the 23rd. We would, if we make a determination. And again, the topics that were raised right now, we have public comments that are suggesting this. And I would state that these are all known topics that we knew when we filed the CR 102. Now we just the council would have to take action. So go ahead, Roger.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think through what we have in front of us, and for what I call the other codes, non-energy code, there are a whole bunch of things that basically we are starting to move a whole bunch of those things off the council's plate onto the staff's plate, saying create a draft CR 103 with the idea that we will approve that at a future council meeting. So there's a whole bunch of proposals that I believe are done. There are a few in the other codes that we may decide that we need to file a supplemental CR 102. So there are two buckets in both the other codes, and there, I'm assuming, are also two buckets in the energy code. I have not as aware of everything, all the comments on the energy code yet at this point. So looking at your schedule, I'm going to start throwing dates out because I've always found that that's the best way for us to start having conversations. If we target CR 103 for all of the stuff in the other codes that we don't need to file a supplemental CR 102, so I'm going to say all of the other stuff, either September 2nd or September 23rd for the building code stuff, the other code stuff. And we also filed a supplemental CR 102 for the other codes on September 23rd. And given the information that where we're at with those other topics in the other codes that we may want to file a CR 102, I feel like September 23rd, we may have to have a special meeting on the 19th or 11th or something of September to do a formal approval of those items. But we put that 23rd date as a hard date for the other codes. And then for the energy code, all of those items that were ready to go CR 103, we pick either October 7th or October 21st. And filing of the supplemental CR 102 for energy code items would be on October 21st. And that way we will have had a hearing by November 24th. We can have a hearing on November 24th, and we can take formal action prior to December 15th.
And
On
Roger,
the, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you.
No, I am going, I feel like I have been doing this throughout this whole code cycle. I want to be the person that says, no, here is how we are going to meet these
Yeah.
deadlines so that we are not continuing to change the code adoption cycle. So that's a path forward that I can see, that I feel like, yes, there's a lot of work to do, but and obviously, Dustin, I still am not completely aware of all of the work that the staff has to do, but I feel like there is a whole bunch of stuff we are already starting to provide you that you could be doing the CR10 draft CR103 language and information, and so.
So Roger, one thing I'll add here is that, and I would advise that we can now just start looking at everything together. We don't no longer have to make a distinction between the building codes and the energy code, because if there's a supplemental, it can be from either of the codes. We've staggered them, of course, for workload and to be very deliberate about hearings and so forth. But now we're going to one finish line on.
Well, but Todd,
codes.
I would, if we have to, we can split the finish line. The other codes are December 1st and the energy code is December 15th.
Well,
So-
one of them is, just be careful. So
okay,
so
okay.
we've just stated that in the past
Okay.
we're shooting for that one first date together.
Yeah.
Technically, yes, the one code could have a little more
So
time
is
if
it
needed,
the
but
commercial energy code
Correct.
that has it the 15th, but the residential energy code is still the 1st?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
so it should just be our goal, in my opinion. Just let's say December 1st together, and if something is needed, then we have that one window. Okay, go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
We have referred to some public feedback that has suggested a supplemental CR102 for the energy code. I had the opportunity to listen to the public hearing, so I'm familiar with that. There seems to be, from Roger, your comments, that you're anticipating the need for a supplemental CR102 in other codes. Can you provide, or you're thinking of that? I'm not aware of that particular need, and as such, would rather focus on the star dates in this calendar, which are the council meetings where we take action, versus the dates Dustin has in highlighted color around the supplemental CR102, which I'm thinking about only if we determine it's necessary for the energy code.
Yeah, Jay, I would prefer and hope that we would not need to have a supplemental CR102 for the other codes. However, I was allowing for that if it was determined that we needed to. So there are a few proposals out there that I think that we are still working on, and at some point there needs to be a determination made as to whether we need to do that or not. So
I recognize there are some things we are working on. A lot of the details I have yet in the work sessions to see anything that is flagged in my mind, at least, as a significant change that would require the issue from public comment was more about incomplete information and what was originally filed, versus saying what's being discussed is a significant change that requires us to have a restart of the process.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. I'm of the same opinion, but the appropriate venue will be on a full council meeting, as you indicated. So that first one, August 28th, because as we're going through in the work sessions, we're not taking public comment. They're public meetings, but we're not taking public comment. So that will be the opportunity on the 28th. If someone's going to bring forward something they feel is a substantive change, I think that's our first real opportunity. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Todd. I guess in listening to the public testimony for the energy codes, my general understanding, I haven't been able to, I don't think the written testimony has been released yet. Dustin, but I think a lot of the uncertainty and just a lot of that was around the commercial energy code and C4 406 requirements. So it does seem there might be a pathway where the residential energy code still follows kind of the same pathway that we have for the December 1st target date, I would say. So, and keeping it kind of in line potentially with the filing of the non-energy codes or something in between maybe, but keeps it on track, but maybe has the revised CR 102 just for the commercial energy code would potentially be my thought on that. But I guess I would hedge that on reviewing written testimony. Thanks.
Good points. Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Sorry, I feel like I'm taking control of the meeting, which I don't intend to do. Given our previous topic, along with all of the work, recognizing all of the work that Dustin and his staff have to do, I will make a recommendation, Todd, that there is a work group of a couple of council members that draft the letter to the governor, and that we don't put any of that work on Dustin and his staff. I think that is meant to come from the council, and I think that particularly the big deadline is September 9th.
Correct.
I feel like that work should be a group of council members with then a final approval by the full council, but keeping that work off of the staff so that they can focus on meeting these deadlines.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And by no means are we directing the staff, but we yes, I think we're all eager, obviously, to help get to that to review the public comments on the energy hearings. So okay, so we're going to open for public comment, I think, but let's just summarize where we are here. What action do we need to take today? So the executive committee can make changes to our schedule, except for the implementation dates, is my understanding. I think the main one is what we are doing. We talked about at the August 28th meeting. We're not going to final adoption if that was on a calendar. Is that correct?
That's been kind of stated in our hearing scripts, but we're not on track to meet that today.
Dustin, and just maybe we should. You want to pull the other calendar up that's posted, because in our bylaws, I believe we state that we will keep this calendar updated and posted. So the last time we did this was this July 1st, if you remember, when we made changes. So I suppose yes, this does say that we were going to go to final adoption on the 28th. So that is one change we can make. And then you see that CR 103 filing with that same September 2nd date. But really what we're talking about today is if there's a determination we have a substantive change on any of the proposed rules, that we would do the supplemental CR 1 or 2 on that date or on the following opportunity.
And to be clear, this is a calendar for the not energy codes. There are the other codes.
Understood.
And then below here we have a little bit different timeline for the energy codes. And so we're essentially about a month out on those final adoption dates. One thing that I'd like to point out on here, though, is the space we have here for CR 103 drafting and workshops is different than what we have for up here. It looks like it's, the same 2 months, but we've essentially got an extra month on the other codes for work on the CR 103. And right now, while we're pushing out with the other codes, it's contracting the energy codes work time frame, and also as we're starting to handle all the comments that we have, there's a larger volume there than what it was for the other codes. And so there's a definite need to move the energy code time frame out a little bit. And then I think that based on the progress we've made and what staff has before them to get ready for the final adoption meeting, I believe that we could be ready for final adoption at our regular scheduled September council meeting for the other codes. And then really handling if we're gonna make a move towards filing supplemental CR 102, kind of colors what I think we need to do for the energy code, but um, there's some more time needed there as well.
And go ahead, Roger.
Dustin, is there any chance you can split your screen and show both of those?
Yes.
And I was, just going to remind everyone that, we stagger these to help with workload, but technically it's not required. We have a desire, obviously, to get, if we take action on adoption, that we can get that language out as quickly as possible, and especially for updating the actual codes with ICC and others, but technically they don't have to happen in a stagger like that.
So Dustin, the one on the right is the other codes, not non-energy codes, right?
Correct.
And you're suggesting that you feel like we can still meet the 828
No.
approval of
No, so
the draft CR 103 or not?
no, I'm suggesting that we would need to update this date here, the 8/28,
Okay.
to September 25. And so the things that staff have in front of them are the outhanging or outlying determinations for those codes, which there's not a bunch, but we're getting there. But the big thing that I don't have time for to meet the 28th date is we have to have a draft code language ready for the public to be able to view 7 days before that final adoption meeting. And that's if we had at the 18th everything wrapped up, I don't have the time in there to have that draft ready by Friday the 21st.
And when you say draft, you mean in WAC format?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the box that is yellow that has 828, you're suggesting is 925?
Yeah, I'm suggesting the box. Yeah.
And the filing date would then be October 7th.
Correct.
Okay. And that requires that you have documents for the 925 date 7 days ahead of that?
Correct. So by the 18th.
Yeah.
And Roger, again, the filing date for the CR 103 is not our main concern.
Right. But
the adoption
if we are going to make a modification to the schedule which is posted, because there is an adoption date on that schedule, we would also want to update that date. So I will pass the baton over to Jay, but I would be ready to make a motion if the executive committee is at that stage. So Jay, go ahead.
Two questions on this. When I think about for what we're calling other codes, everything but the energy code, I know we're having some discussions where we've got some potential amendments that are not necessarily consensus amendments that the council is going to have to decide on. Embodied carbon is one. A3 refrigerants is another that I know we've got multiple options to choose from. Dustin, when you're saying we've got to have final code language available 7 days before a council meeting, does that mean the entire package, or could it be options where if council took action on, say, September 25th of picking one of multiple options, where those multiple options were published 7 days in advance, would that meet your needs? Or do we have to do this in a two-step process where we decide among the menu of options, and then take final action on here's a set of code.
I think that I would be in favor of the second scenario you laid out. If there were options on the table at the final adoption meeting, it might be minimum compliant, but I still think that for what the statute says, we would need to have just one, to have the options issues solved through the work sessions, and then we would propose that final CR 103 draft at that final adoption meeting. I think having options on there doesn't get me the needs that I'm looking for.
Okay, so given that, Roger, I actually think we'll need 2 meetings on the other codes, September 25th, to decide the outstanding questions that were teeing up in the work sessions, and then the October 16th meeting to ratify the complete package of code. The September 25th meeting would be more involved, where we've got going to have a lot of discussion and votes on, half dozen amendments. Whereas the October meeting could be more just final action. Okay, this is all set for a month. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
But I don't think and all of this that we're talking about doesn't account for any work we'd be looking about emergency rulemaking. So that's where I'm concerned about the overall schedule.
Yeah.
And I think we're pushing into October with the other codes, and the November dates that we have for the energy code, given a authorization for a supplemental CR 102 is possible, but it's going to be tight. And again, I would want to understand how we overlay emergency rulemaking on top of it.
Yeah, and a couple things I'm hearing, and when we laid out the schedule originally, we put the stagger in for final adoption to make sure we had plenty of ability to for in terms of workload. I think the way this is happening now, that the work sessions, in my opinion, are effective. That's new. We've introduced that this cycle, and we're essentially taking straw polls so we can anticipate, the actions we're going to take, right? And Jay, I think what I heard you say was, and I agree with, is we put emphasis on both the September 25th council meeting, the August meeting and the September 25th meeting, to really take formal action if we feel there's a determination of it could be the need for supplemental CR 102 because there's substantive change, or we just need to settle a couple of the items that there are still multiple options available. And to me, that would, at that second meeting in September, that would still give us time. If there was a need for a supplemental CR 102, we could still put it in on that October 7th date, and then have the hearing on November 10th, and then still take final action and the November adoption at the November date. But I kind of hear us proposing that we do final adoption scheduled right now on October 20 or 16th. And my question to the council is, could we have both if we know that we front loaded all the decision making in the 2 August and September council meetings? Does that make sense?
Well,
Circle.
Can I ask, you're saying combine the energy code questions and the other codes questions?
The final adoption.
Yeah.
We could have them at one meeting. I'm trying to think where that. I would rather make the CR 103s available for a longer period of time than to say we've met the minimum requirement of 7 days. and have everyone scramble on
Sure.
reading those. So is there a downside to just proposing October 16th
Yeah,
as the final adoption?
I agree. In my mind, I am just wanting to get as many tasks finished as we can so that we can focus on the ones that are that take more time. So Jay, I completely agree if we call that October 16th adoption and whenever the date would be for the filing. But the filing can be in November, right, Todd? I mean, we can leave the CR 103 open and we can do the filing in November.
I think I heard Dustin or others say that the filing can be after December 1st. It's the adoption that matters.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Now,
So
let me just get
go
ahead
ahead.
of a public comment. Is everyone's interest is to get the CR 103 drafted and available, and that also means moving towards publishing, but the publishing piece is not the statutory question here.
Right.
Yeah.
Jay, so given the fact I completely agree with you. Looking at our August 28th meeting and our September 25th meeting, I would love for us to spend a whole lot of time on August 28th on everything on the other codes except the handful of ones that we're still working on. And basically the council says yes, drafts, gives full approval for the staff to draft CR 103 on everything on the other codes except those column 5 or 4 or 3 or however many there are. Go ahead.
Yeah, I concur. If we can like make a decision on A3 refrigerants on the 28th, I think we could do all the other codes minus the embodied carbon appendix and be moving on those. I think the embodied carbon appendix is going to take some more time. And Mr. Chair, I see that Patrick has
he's been patient, and let's go to public comment. So thank you, Jay.
Are you calling on me?
Yes, please, Patrick.
Okay,
Thank you
yeah.
for waiting.
Yeah, no worries. I have two things, one related to this discussion and then one is separate.
Okay.
The codes are basically a year behind this point, which I understand there's been a multitude of delays and we appreciate the council taking the time needed to meet the statutory rulemaking requirements. So not complaining about the delay, but the delay of adoption. But traditionally, when the codes were adopted in Q4 of a year, they would go into effect July 1 of the following year. Having the May implementation date with the final code essentially not being available to the public in an easily digestible form until December or January, let alone when it gets published in the ICC, that gives less than 6 months to prepare and train the industry for enforcement. So I would ask the council if you could at least move the implementation date to July from May at this point. The second thing is I'm not sure if this is on your mind, and I know that staff and council have a lot going on with code adoption, but your official policies and procedures in WAC says that in the August of the year before the model code, you will post a timeline for the next code cycle update. So just, as you're trying to juggle all of these things, there'll also be, I think stakeholders will start looking towards the next code cycle and want to kind of have a rough idea of when the key dates for 2027 will be. So just wanted to remind you of that. Thank you.
Okay, good comment. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the public like to weigh in? Okay, not seeing hands. Okay, council. So go ahead, Roger.
Well, I wanted to get a motion started, and I think if people can second and we can have discussion, I want to move us towards, So I think the critical date is and I don't have the row, but it is the approval that currently shows 8/28. I believe what we talked about is that being 9/25.
Yes, and I also raised the question of why not October 16th for both.
Okay, so that is a question as to whether we want to put that as the deadline, and knowing that we want to get the work done before that. Todd?
Yeah, go ahead, Jay, and then I'll weigh in.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and I would support the October date, and maybe a additional line on the schedule to say approval of final amendments on September, to set that expectation within the council that we're making decisions in September and then taking final action in October.
All right, I kind of feel like, Jay, you should make the motion. You've got it dialed in a little bit closer, and I agree with you. So,
Go ahead, Jay.
I am looking to see what the I'm bringing up myself the header for that. Okay, so
And if I may, while you're thinking there, Jay, Dustin and staff, if you have any concerns of anything we've said here, please weigh in. If we're not being sensitive and thinking about workload.
My big concern isn't necessarily like this. I think works really good for the other codes. I do have concern on if we can bring the energy codes to fruition on this timeline. Fully acknowledging that if we don't hit the October 16th timeframe, we're looking into November, and then that's really close to that statutory deadline. I guess, Krista, I'd ask if you have an opinion on this timeline, and if like so. We've been talking about the statutory requirements, and we touched briefly on the publication side of that. So staff is currently working on publication really based on CR 102 language. And once we can get final CR 103 language, the amount of amendment to our amendments in the drafts shouldn't be huge, but it will be an additional step. So we're trying to front load as best as possible to like be ready to just rock and roll once we have final adoption. It's still a probably tough one to get these all out. And as far as where we're at with what the publications will look like coming in October, ICC had asked me to get publications going to them sooner than that so that they can get them out on our desired January timeframe. I don't believe that they'll be able to get them out in the 1st of January if we are putting final proofs to them, in late October, early November. And so, but I guess that's my concern is energy code. Can we get it there? For the other codes, I think this works really well. It gives us plenty of breathing space for those codes. But Krista, with the amount of comment that we have and the potential for other things happening with the energy code, do you have any input on this timeline for October 16th? I might suggest a later date in October, maybe October 23rd or 30th.
I would probably agree with that. There's about 150 written comments for the energy code. I've gotten through reading about half of them. There are a number of modifications that are coming through. 3 or 4 of those are fairly lengthy and would probably take more than 2 or 3 work sessions to get through. Whether we also add in tag meetings and committee meetings to review those, that would just add to the timeline. So yeah, I would suggest with a later October date.
Okay.
Energy codes.
And Krista, is that still pretty tight for the amount that we have?
Probably.
Okay.
It depends. I mean, a lot of them are all the same comments, so same modifications. but there are 3 or 4 people who have done a very deep dive and are suggesting modifications down to the add a comma here level. So
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Roger, why don't you make your comment and I'll follow up.
No, go ahead, Todd.
I was going to say, a couple things were said there. One, determination on whether we would move to a tag or committee format on the energy code is the will of the council and would probably happen at the August date. It's my opinion that the work sessions are kind of surgical targeted mechanism right now that we're trying to use, and that is the way we've been going through council members and tasking them to work with stakeholders, and that might include some or all of the tags, but I would be very cautious about recommending that we're moving back to tags and committees at this point in terms of council workload and staff workload. But that doesn't have to be determined here. The second one is, again, on the publications, everyone is sensitive to this, but let's focus on the statutory piece. That is an external, ask for deadlines and requirements, and there's other ways that can that resources can be moved to achieve that publication piece. So I would recommend that we focus on the WAC, the Sierra 102, the 103, and those kind of efforts right now. So okay, go ahead, Roger.
Well, I just, Todd, you had talked about, all right, we file the CR 103 at the same time. You get done with the other codes and they kind of sit there as final CR 103, and then they get a final filing in October or November or something. Is that?
No, I think maybe to clarify, again, the CR 103 filing is not our main consideration. Getting a CR 103 draft available to the public and to the council well in advance of adoption is our main concern.
However, the publication piece, if the CR 103 is filed, that can start the time frame for publication for ICC to be doing their work.
Is
that correct, Dustin?
That's the opinion I was giving, that even though it's not adopted, other resources and can be thrown at that to get to a publication. So it's not our main statutory consideration, but that is my opinion. It doesn't have to be as linear as it's being discussed right now.
Well, that's why having what's shown on the screen, and I still think that we need to be separating the schedule for the energy code and the other codes. And it goes to the publication timeline, is if we could be all done and everything's filed on CR 103 on all the other codes, that gets ICC started on everything except the energy code. Go ahead, Dustin.
So as far as what you say for ICC getting started on it, the ICC doesn't draft our amendments into their publications for us. That's another staff task that we are we're like in the process of doing that right now. And then once we get final amendments ready, we'll be able to complete our final drafts of those publication proofs. And then at that point, then they make it all ready. They do some formatting stuff for us, but as far as the insertion of our amendments, that's all on SBCC staff.
Okay, but am I correct? Dustin, how many staff do you have? 4?
I have myself and 3 code specialists at the moment, and 1 admin.
Okay. Do all 4 of the code specialists, including yourself, are they all involved in the energy code?
No, right now it's me and Krista are handling energy code stuff, and then Rosanna and Brandon are working on the drafts for publication right now.
So
and then I'm helping get that stuff. I'm keeping the work sessions on track for them and keeping them focused on the publication piece because it's takes some time for that.
So it is my opinion that we need to continue to push the other codes through and be done with our work as soon as we can. And if that's October, that's fine. So that Dustin could potentially have 1 of his 4 staff doing all of that work they need to do on the final, whereas 2 or 3 of them are working on the energy code stuff. it gives him the ability, in my mind, to be doing all of that additional work that they have to do to get to ICC. So I just feel like the dates that we kind of have there, the council meeting for CR 103, final adoption of October 16th. I still would potentially think we should push for the September date, but that's all. I'll let others speak.
Okay, go ahead, Jay. You're muted, Jay.
I was going to take the opposite tack, Roger, and say, like, I just, given some final decisions that we have, I think for the other codes, the 925 final draft approval is realistic. I don't see how we converge before that. And wanted to get staff feedback on, for the energy code, of saying, could we, following that same two meeting model, do we have the capacity to say we get the energy code to final draft approval by October 16th with final action on November 20th? If that is possible, I haven't quite really thought about the work sessions required on the energy code. We've heard about things like the CMU walls. We've heard about replacement standards for HVAC equipment. I think there's some big issues, and I don't know if those are things that the council just is going to decide we don't want to do changes on compared to what was put out for CR 102, or if there's council members that are thinking of revisions. And so I think it really kind of depends on that.
Thank you, Jay. Go ahead, Ben.
Thanks, Todd. And I guess kind of going back to something you had said earlier regarding like how the council may direct the work sessions to function for the energy codes, or if there is a need for an actual convening of the tag and how that would work. I guess I would propose, assuming Dustin and staff, we can get the written testimony released for review prior to the August 28th meeting, that the council has an opportunity to potentially direct the energy code tags to work on specific items as needed for the code. So and that's maybe just an agenda item we look at for that meeting. But I think the public testimony did indicate there's some significant just structural issues that need to get addressed with specifically the commercial energy code that, as Krista had alluded to, would take some significant effort to work through. So I think there's definitely a need to, especially for the commercial energy code, have some ability to work through those items to get things to a cohesive state. So it can be brought to CR 103 without having additional options or changes that the council needs to review at that adoption meeting. So I guess, yeah, I think like for the other codes, including potentially the residential energy code, looking at an adoption date of October would seem reasonable to me, but yeah, I guess kind of depends on how we want to break things out, and obviously there's a lot of timing and resource considerations that we're talking about. Thanks.
Okay, so I think we're hearing two, maybe three different proposals here. One, Roger, split them, accelerate to adoption. Ben, I think you're right in the middle there on that 16th of October. And Jay, I think you're raising an interesting question of why not just maybe both. on November 20th, but no one's letting off the gas on moving towards getting CR 103 drafts and making decisions. But we're just leaving also flexibility for plenty of work sessions and council meetings to make decisions. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I'm just, doesn't necessarily have to be both, but I do think the energy code could take some time, and so just want to be prepared for final action on that in November. I do think other codes could have final action in October.
And I guess my question is, what advantage is there to adopting before that October or the November date, beyond the publications? But in my opinion, publications can be written before adoption and adjusted if needed. I assume we're talking about they are Word documents. I'm not trivializing it. I'm just saying any changes can be made. Go ahead, Roger.
Dustin had his hand up.
Yep. So, thoughts on, as we're trying to bring this in, we, staggered our process right now, to make sure that we can appropriately address, the other codes and have time for those, and also then the energy codes. And so we've got a couple topics in both kind of categories. Of the energy code by its nature requires a lot of discussion. So we need some time set aside to make sure we cover that. With the other codes, we have some topics in there that are requiring some lengthy discussion as well. And as we maybe look to October as a final adoption for the other codes, and also maybe trying to get most of the decisions taken out of, like, not having options, having a final movement towards our final CR 103 draft for the energy codes, I might think that the October 16th date would be either a really long day of council meeting, which I'm game for, but I might suggest that we in October keep the 16th date for the other codes and maybe break out to the 23rd or the 30th for a preliminary energy code deliberation, and where we have time dedicated for the amount of discussion that I'm kind of thinking is going to come down on this.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. Go ahead, Roger.
I'll let Jay. Oh, I'm still trying to think through dates, so I don't know. I don't have comments.
Okay. Okay. I think we're looking for a motion.
Actually, Todd, I will. The one thing I was going to say is the reason that I would like to get the other codes to the point where we call it final adoption, so the council has said this is it, is so that Dustin has some comfort that they can go through and get started on that work.
Get started on
the work of getting the final what is it, the RCW?
Oh, the CR 103 filed?
Yes. That the filing date can be whenever, but getting the council to bless, in my mind, on the September 25th date, everything related to the other codes, so that Dustin has some comfort that he has all of that work that he can put to one or two of his staff if the staff are not busy on energy code stuff. I still would push for that final adoption for the other codes on September 25th.
Okay, Roger,
but
not disagreeing, but just again, the consideration of they have to write the CR 103 anyway 7 days in advance of that meeting is my understanding, and part of the argument is just get that available and leave as big of a window open for that, and don't, so potentially we're rushing them towards completion of the CR 103 on a tight time frame and not giving the public as much time to review it. Go ahead, Dustin.
So on that one, I think that we could potentially get there, but we've heard some comments that the specifically embodied carbon appendix is going to take some more time. So we have a work session scheduled for the 18th and the 25th, where you're going to need to put some more on the calendar for Tuesdays through September. And I would say that if we can have the discussions on options fairly well taken care of through consensus voting at the work sessions, that by the 8th of September, that I can pretty well promise that we can get the draft documents ready in time for a September council meeting. But it would definitely be easier to have it happen on the 16th, but we're condensing stuff. No matter where we're looking, there's something's going to get condensed. And so maybe I would prefer a condensing the stuff to the September meeting.
Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Well, I want to continue to push us the meeting that is the August 28th meeting.
Yep.
As a council, if we approve everything except what is it, the refrigerants, the embodied carbon, and there's one more. I don't know if we've talked about the EV charging yet. I think that there's some decisions the council has to make on EV charging and changing some numbers. If we could do everything but those 2 or 3 on the 28th of August, and then we have consensus in the working, in our work sessions on August 25th, September 1st, 8th, and get consensus on those 2 or 3 things, then I think that I think that we could make that September date.
Jay, go ahead and I'll
Yeah,
respond.
Roger, I think we're kind of saying the same thing, that we are trying to converge on 25th on finalize and locking down the code. However, given that we have a requirement that the code sit without changes for 7 days before we take final action, that's why that final action has to happen in October compared to September.
Okay.
I don't see for the other codes that final it's ratification. You can think of it as just a formality. I do think that as far as driving to decisions and having that final code, we know what it is at the 25th. We just can't, because we wouldn't have published those final decisions on where we come up with the embodied carbon language, the A3 refrigerants, etc. That's why I think it makes sense to have 925 final draft approval, 1016 final action.
And I would like to emphasize, we had multiple comments, particularly in the energy code, that people wanted more time to go through the CR 102. And in this case, they'd be going through the CR 103 to make sure they pick up anything that's not consistent with what the decision making in the record shows, or just simply, errors and mistakes. And I think the more time we can let that CR 103, we get it available as soon as possible, let it sit, let people go through it, catch things if there are mistakes in there. And then also, I would argue that because we're also working through the publication based off that CR 103 draft, I suspect staff will pick up things also, or if there's something that needs to be just reworded correct or whatever, that will come out in that translation also. So
okay.
Go ahead, Roger.
I would make a motion for what is on the screen, which is non-energy codes, that the final draft approval of 925 get added to our schedule. The council meeting for CR 103 final adoption of October 16th. And then we move the CR 103 filing, and I'm going to grab November 10th or November 20, probably November 10th as the when the CR 103 is actual filing. And I'm fine moving that to December 5th, 4th. That's kind of up to, oh, those are Tuesdays, right?
Yeah,
So
I was just going to
I
say
would-
we'd be looking at the November 4th and December 2nd days
So-
there.
my proposal is you move the CR 103 filing date to November 4th. And I would be fine moving that. Is it the 18th or is it just is it every 2 weeks or once a month, Dustin, that you have the filing?
The filings happen on the filing deadlines for the code revisor are the first Wednesday of the month and then the second to last Wednesday of the month. And so for most months, there's only 4 Wednesdays in there, but on the off chance there's a fifth Wednesday, they
Okay.
have a rule for
So
it.
my proposal is actually to change that 11/4 to 11/18. And Dustin, if it meant that you could file it on the 4th and we're ready, I don't know that.
There's no
That couldn't
penalty
be
for filing
changed.
it early.
Right.
So if in between, if we filed on 4th by noon, that would be essentially our filing deadline. But when we file the CR 103, we're post dating the effective date until our implementation date. And so, the filing deadlines are not a critical component for the CR 103. But, like Todd's mentioned, having that
Yeah.
draft available if we have the draft available, once we do final adoption, filing is a breeze after that. It's
Yeah.
ready to go.
So again, what I think the action we're trying to take today is to update this schedule, which is posted on the website. And so my motion is the 3, adding the final draft approval and putting that date as 9/25, moving the final adoption. So council meeting for CR 103 adoption to October 16th and the CR 103 filing, put it on November 18th.
Second.
Okay. And this is just the non-energy codes, as a reminder. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So are those changes all reflected there then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? Roger, did you have your hand up still or just okay. Not seeing any public comment. Okay, let's take a voice vote on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, then similarly on the energy code, are we prepared?
So I probably need to put another line in there for kind of getting the CR 103 final draft approval in there. I assume that would be a good benefit for this discussion as well.
And to clarify, when we say draft approval, that's at a council meeting. The draft can actually be available earlier if possible. I mean, will be earlier, but well, I should say will be, but that's the goal, right? Get it available as soon as possible.
And if I may, I might propose final draft approval October 23rd or 30th, and then following suit down the line with the council meetings and filing deadlines.
So have a special meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd have to do some counting, but we might be far enough away that I can make this a regular meeting instead of a special meeting.
So we'd have an adoption date on October 16th as shown with the star for the other codes, and then have another council meeting on the 23rd or 30th. Is there a preference for anyone with that proposal?
Dustin, could you
Go ahead.
put those dates in
Yes.
that you're proposing? I think that we've had a whole lot of conversation but just so we're all thinking about the same numbers.
So I think the 23rd or the 30th, either one would still, I probably should do the 30th just in case we have to use that October. No. I was looking at the potential supplemental dates. I guess it doesn't matter. It would be the window before that would the hearing would be on the 7th. So I guess it doesn't matter.
So, I mean, we haven't made a decision on filing supplemental CR 102 for the energy codes, and that would be a decision probably needs to be made at the August council meeting.
I was going to say September 25th would still give you the window for the October 7th. And then the hearing. Nope, I'm wrong. Gotcha. You're right. I guess I'm looking at the yellow. You'd have to decide, you know, the latest you would file is September 23rd and then have a hearing on the 27th, and then we could take action on the 30th.
Yeah, if we wanted to not take action on supplemental CR 102 at this next council meeting, but maybe make available the filing date of September 23rd, we would need to have something happen either I would say probably September 4th or 11th would be a good date to make sure we can file supplemental CR 102 at that time.
Our goal is to address it October 28th. So let's maybe just keep that in mind, but not, go ahead, Ben.
Okay, I was gonna suggest the 23rd for the just council review, but Todd, with kind of in light of kind of the dates that we're looking at for a potential supplemental CR 102, then I guess then the 30th would make sense. Obviously, that does not provide a ton of time for public review, assuming like I don't know, Dustin, like how long it might take to get that CR 103 posted prior to the November meeting. But yeah, obviously giving more time for that would be ideal. But yeah, I guess 30th makes sense for that.
Our goal, if there's supplemental, just to restate, is we would take action August 28th, file on and then have that window in orange from the 2nd to October 6th, right? Is that what everyone's understanding?
I think we could do that. I would ask Krista, do you think we could be ready by the 2nd with a supplemental CR 102 filing?
If council action was taken on the 28th,
Yeah.
Probably, depending on whether it's just including the PNNL stuff or if the supplemental would include some of the other items termed errors and omissions.
Yeah. And then the fallback, Krista, would be you'd have to schedule a special council meeting and hit that September 23rd date.
Or Todd, I was also going to just say right now the line that says November 20th for final adoption.
Yeah.
Last code cycle, we had a special meeting on what would currently be December 11th, where we took final action to adopt. That was done on December 11th as a backup.
Okay.
So we're pushing to make that November 20th date, which I completely agree with. Just know that we do have a backup that we can move things out another couple weeks.
And that's just for the commercial
Or the
code,
commercial energy code.
Yeah. So the residential, we'd probably need to stick with that November target
you're
for
right.
adoption. Yeah.
You're right.
Okay. I think we're getting there. I think we're zeroing in on October 30th as a draft approval date, and then adoption on the 20th of November, right? Go ahead, Jay.
If we're looking at a special meeting on October 30th for that final draft approval, I would want to target the supplemental CR 102 if the council chooses to do that on the 23rd. If we can make the window on the 2nd, great, but it sounds a little tentative. So, and it doesn't affect the final schedule down the line. So whether a supplemental got filed on the 2nd or the 23rd, we could still make the end of year if we had that special meeting on the 30th. So I'd be in support of that.
I think that makes sense. Okay. Is that what's reflected now?
Correct.
30th. Everyone understand? Maybe scroll over, just make sure everyone sees the.
Oop.
There we. Okay, so that's
Sorry, I'm messing it
okay.
up then.
That's okay. There you go. So the
Can you add the language on the left, the descriptor?
okay, I think that's accurate.
I would make a motion that we we adopt the schedule as shown for the energy code. And this is for both energy codes.
Correct. Okay, go ahead, Jay. You're muted, sorry.
I would second the motion and with the clarification that we're also directing staff to schedule a special meeting of the council on or before October 30th.
Correct. Roger.
Friendly amendment to my motion is okay.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded for the schedule as shown and to direct staff to schedule the October 30th meeting or before. Okay. Any other discussion?
Just as one, if we do file supplemental CR 102, it would be my view that we still need to have an east side, west side hearing. And the 27th is the first day we can have a public hearing.
Okay.
I would maybe propose that we try to stage staff to be ready to do another hearing on the 28th. And not necessarily the 29th, because it'll be tough to have everything back in place and ready for a council meeting on the 30th. So just to make aware when the hearings might fall, because there's going to be two of them.
Yeah. Appreciate that. We're not taking that action today. Obviously, that would be part of the council action on determination of supplementals.
Yep.
CR 102 filing. So, but good point. Thank you, Dustin. Okay, I think we're there. Let's take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay, I think we did it. Go ahead, Roger.
I just have one more. If we can just have a quick conversation around our work sessions.
Yes.
So right now they are every Tuesday. I know they aren't scheduled out, but thinking that they will become scheduled out. We still have August 18th and 25th, hopefully done with the other stuff. Will the embodied carbon push out to September 1st, maybe? I don't know. But what I see is most likely September 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th. We have 5 work sessions in September that we could devote to the energy code.
Yep.
So
and if it's working for everyone, I think, if it's not working for anyone, that time, speak up maybe, but go ahead, Roger.
Well, and maybe October 6th. So while I recognize there's a lot of work on the energy codes, particularly if we refile the CR 102, revise CR 102, I understand that, but I think that we need to continue to push forward with those work sessions and even work through we can talk about whether we start working through the public comment on the current CR 102, knowing that we will have to, there will be other comments if we refile it. But anyway, we do have a fair number of work sessions available to us to start getting through the energy code.
Okay. And I think we've discussed it's probable on next Tuesday, we'll prioritize emergency proclamation. Ben, are we ready on any of the mechanical?
Yeah, I guess, for the A3 refrigerants for next week's work session, I'm hoping to have just an updated package of proposed amendments and some updated recommendations that hopefully we can get consensus on.
Do you so you anticipate you'll be able to post those and we'll at least be able to introduce those and talk about it? I don't think we need action necessarily on Tuesday unless you feel we're ready.
I mean, potentially, I mean, I think it would be helpful to get a gauge of what kind of the work session attendees feelings are and what would make sense. And then if, depending on how that goes, recommend one or more options to the council to review.
Okay, so if we're prioritizing, do you want to schedule approximately half an hour for that at the end if you start with emergency proclamation?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay, go ahead, Roger.
I just am looking, Dustin, at the schedule that you have there. And if we are going to vote to update the schedule, do we need to move the lines for the workshops out?
I would say that those would just kind of follow suit. These are the hard dates, and I'll make the workshops lines
Okay.
meet up with what that time window
Okay.
allows.
And
All
then
right,
this will
thank
be
you.
reposted on the website as our
Yeah.
bylaw state. Okay. Okay, so I think anything else? Go ahead, Jay.
I had a quick question for Ben. Did I hear that we're expecting some updated documents, or we're using the same ones that we had for the last work session?
Hopefully I'll be able to send you some updated items
Okay.
either today or before Monday.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay.
Roger had suggested that there would be a ad hoc committee to work on providing a report to respond to the governor. Do we need to make a motion to authorize you as chair to form such a working group?
Good question. And I'm trying to remember that our differences between a special committee and an ad hoc committee. One requires the executive committee or the council to form it. One is simply the chair. Is there a preference by the committee how we do it?
I believe, Todd, that the executive committee has the power. I think Jay's motion to direct you to form that committee.
Yeah.
I think that I will second Jay's motion.
Okay. That's probably their most robust one, just to put it in the record. Okay. Does everyone understand then the motion? We'll form that ad hoc or special committee, whichever term is the most appropriate in our.
Just point of order, I'm reviewing the bylaws here real quick, and I think that that's needs to be established by the full council.
Gotcha. Okay, if that's the case, then the fallback is until the full council meeting is I believe the chair of the council or a chair of one of the standing committees has the ability to form a special committee. So we could simply state here on record that that's our intent.
I would suggest that the committee gets formed under your direction, Todd, and it gets approved at the next council meeting.
Okay. Okay, let's just let the record show that then. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, anything else in this agenda item on schedules? I don't think we in executive committee have an item for other business, so especially under a special meeting, I think. So we'll be careful about that. Therefore, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I appreciate the time today, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.